You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of sight. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
And I suppose this is an admission of a kind of weakness, or at least a sense of insecurity on my part. I've never had a Broadway play produced. What few motion pictures I've written have been somewhat less than spectacular. And I suppose I stay in the medium partly as an admission of I want to stay in the womb. This is the medium I understand. These are the tools and techniques that I've been versed in for many years. Maybe I don't want to, you know, get stuck up on the board and get shot at with darts in a Broadway play when I'm not sure I'm prepared for it. But Patty was willing to take the chance. Gore Vidal writes novels. Bob Arthur did Broadway.
What about you and novels?
Ultimately, I'd love to write a novel, and I think next year I'll start my play. Requiem was under option. It was written as a play, and I gave them their money back, and I want to do it over again. But I stay in the medium also because I happen to like the medium.
Herb Brodkin, who was a TV producer who was associated with some of your earlier plays, has said this about you. He said, Rod is either going to stay commercial or become a discerning artist, but not both.
I remember the quote. He gave it to Gilbert Milstein when Milstein was doing a profile on me in the New York Times. I didn't understand it at the time. I failed to achieve any degree of understanding in the ensuing years, which are 3 in number. I presume Herb means that inherently you cannot be commercial and artistic. You cannot be commercial and quality. You cannot be commercial concurrent with having a preoccupation with the level of storytelling that you want to achieve. And this I have to reject. I think you can be, I don't think calling something commercial tags it with a kind of an odious suggestion that it stinks, that it's something raunchy to be ashamed of. I don't think if you say commercial means to be publicly acceptable, what's wrong with that? As long, the essence of my argument, Mike, is that as long as you are not ashamed of anything you write, if you're a writer, as long as you're not ashamed of anything you perform if you're an actor, and I'm not ashamed of doing a television series. I could have done probably 30 or 40 film series over the past 5 years. I presume at least I've turned down that many, with great guarantees of cash, with great guarantees of financial security, but I've turned them down because I didn't like them. I did not think they were quality, and God knows they were commercial. But I think innate in what Herb says is this suggestion made by many people that you can't have public acceptance and still be artistic. And as I say, I have to reject that.
One of your most recent plays was one called The Velvet Alley, right?
Right.
It was about the corrupting influences of Hollywood and big money.
Right.
Where'd that come from? Your own experiences?
Part of it was very autobiographical. Part of it was a composite of of observation of other people involved.
Well, what do you mean by the corrupting influence of Hollywood and big money? What is that? What
I
saying?
didn't mean to suggest that corruption had a geographical tag, that it was necessarily the corruption of Hollywood. What I tried to suggest dramatically was that when you get into the big money, particularly in the kind of detonating, exciting, explosive, overnight way that our industry permits, there are certain blandishments that a guy can succumb to, and many do.
Such as?
A preoccupation with status, with the symbols of status, with the heated swimming pool that's 10 feet longer than the neighbors, with the big car, with the concern about billing. All these things, in a sense, rather minute things, really, in context, but that become disproportionately large in a guy's mind.
And also, because those become so large, what becomes small?
I think probably the really valuable things. And I know this sounds corny and sort of buckwheatish to say that things like having a family, being concerned with raising children, being concerned with where they go to school, being concerned with a good marital relationship, all these things I think are of the essence. Unfortunately, and the problem, as I tried to dramatize in The Velvet Alley, was that the guy who makes a success is immediately assailed by everybody. And you suddenly find yourself having to compromise along the line, giving so many hours to work and a disproportionate number of fewer hours to family. Yeah. And this is inherent in our business.
How many hours a day do you work right now as executive producer and or writer on?
12 to 14 hours a day.
How many days a week?
7. And
I don't mean, now seriously, I'm not asking for figures here, But obviously, the Twilight Zone is your own creation. You're doing it for money. I think that our audience would be fascinated to know. And again, I don't want to get too specific, but how rich can a fella get under these circumstances?
Well, if the show is successful, he can get tremendously rich. He can make $500,000, I suppose.
$500,000 of what? A year?
Over a period of 3 or 4 years, I suppose, yeah. But, Mike, I'm not... Again, this sounds defensive, and it probably sounds phony. But I'm not nearly as concerned with the money to be made on this show as I am with the quality of it, and I can prove that. I have a contract with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, which guarantees me something in the neighborhood of $250,000 over a period of 3 years. This is a contract I'm trying to break and get out of, so I can devote time to a series which is very iffy, which is a very problematical thing. It's only guaranteed 26 weeks, and if it only goes 26 weeks and stops, I'll have lost a great deal of money. But I would rather take the chance and do something I like, something I'm familiar with, and devote time to a series which is very iffy, which is a very problematical thing. It's only guaranteed 26 weeks, and if it only goes 26 weeks and stops, I'll have lost a great deal of money. But I would rather take the chance and do something I like, something I'm familiar with, something that has a built-in challenge to it.
It's even possible, though, that if it is a success, you could make well over the $2 million that you suggested.
Right.
4 years, $500,000 apiece.
Quite right, but I happen to feel after a year and a half of working 12 to 14 hours a day, it's worth it. And I think I rate it. I think anybody does who works that hard and can create an idea and can make a show go.
30 seconds. Is television good?
Some television's wonderful. Some television is exciting and promising and has vast potential. Some television is mediocre and bad. But I think it has promise, Mike. I think this can conceivably be a real art form. And I stick with it for the reasons I said, and because I think that it can only improve, and can improve tremendously, and I think aims toward that.
Rod Serling's story can be summed up in just a few words. From 40 rejection slips to 3 Emmy Awards, from a trailer home to a hacienda in Hollywood complete with swimming pool. It hasn't been a long road, but it's been a hard one, and the last couple of miles have been paved with gold. We thank Rod Serling for adding his portrait to our gallery, one of the people other people are interested in. Mike Wallace, that's it for now.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of sight. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.